Hello! We are
Hey,
live and we are late.
yes, we are. Sorry about that. We got to talking about the television show that those of you who are fans will probably recognize the
In
set.
the background. Yes, we're going to talk about Blake 7, which Mark has just started watching. So we will have a fresh perspective on it. And I've already outlined for him who from the cast is still with us and those that have left. And I guess, what episode are you on now, Mark?
I think it's four.
Okay,
It's the one. Three was the one where they got the ship,
right,
and then four is the one where they went to the prison planet to rescue the people,
right.
and got on the wrong side of these religious zealots that made people think they had a cure for a disease that didn't exist.
Yeah,
I can, watching the show, I can see a lot of things that Star Trek borrowed.
yeah, yeah.
You can see a lot of plot points that either Blake Seven borrowed them from early Trek or Trek borrowed them from Blake Seven. So
Well, it Blake 7 is actually kind of a commentary on Trek. If you'll notice, the insignia is um, the Starfleet symbol put on its side.
yeah, and the bad guys in Blake Seven are called the Federation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're
And
the bad guys.
now, those of you who have hesitated to watch the show, let me tell you my feeling about the show. The special effects are about like the old Buck Rogers in the
They
30s.
suck.
Yeah, it's obvious they didn't have a real big budget for this thing. And you can, if you watch the show, it's kind of, but all British sci-fi, even the stuff that had money thrown at it, is the same. Even if you watch, it wasn't British, it was Canadian, but same thing. If you watch Space 1999, that was one of the highest budgeted science fiction show of its time. But those costumes, and if you look at the costumes in Space 1999, watch UFO, and they use some of the same costumes in UFO.
It's true. Well, you'll see a lot of borrowed costumes and props and backgrounds and
Well, the special effects in UFO were much better than any of the other shows. And that's because the special effects in UFO and the executive producer of UFO was Jerry Anderson,
yeah,
who, if you're familiar with the genre, uh, Jerry Anderson was Fireball XL5, Stingray, Supercar, Thunderbirds,
yeah,
so on and so on and so on. So he was, and his people actually worked on the Death Star.
yeah.
A lot of his miniature people got jobs and worked on the Death Star. So, a lot of those special effects for the era, for the time period, were not bad.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, is that they had to be so inventive. It's rather suggestive of the beginning of Dark Shadows, where they were having to, they really did invent a lot of stuff back then, because they wanted to expand the visual um, element of the series, and
Well,
it.
a lot of the stuff will make you laugh when you watch
Oh, of course.
it. I don't know if you remember. You probably haven't seen the first episodes in a while. In like episode 2 or 3, where they have this cloth tube attaching the two ships together,
Yes.
and the bad guy is walking through the tube and they disconnect and he gets thrown into space. That helmet that he is wearing, it's like they took a pot and put it on its head and welded a piece of metal to the front of it.
Oh, there's a lot of it. I mean,
I mean, what the heck were they thinking?
yeah, it the costumes as the series progressed certainly improved, and but at the very beginning it was just ridiculous. And that's the thing when you have a series that has quality scripts but no budget. You have to kind of forgive the visuals until the plot picks up, and then hopefully they get budget back. But
Well,
um
having thrown rocks at the show when it comes to the sets and the special effects, I have to say the acting was pretty good. I've
yes,
seen
yeah,
much worse acting in some, especially Next Generation. The first half dozen episodes of Next Generation were pretty terrible. But the acting in this show was really pretty good.
yeah,
Considering that they didn't have these grandiose sets and everything to act against. That, and they didn't have green screen during a lot of that. That was early green screen, so
right,
you know, and there was no CGI. So forget CGI because that
yeah,
computers didn't exist for all, not as we know them. So
right,
they weren't building anything in computers back then. But
yeah,
the
yeah,
acting was excellent. I and even
yeah,
the storyline. If you
yep.
watch it and pay attention, it's a pretty good story.
That's what
It's
I always loved about it. Is it's serious. It has an intelligent story spine to it, and they deal with a lot of really important issues, and in an intelligent and thoughtful way that isn't fraught with you know bullshit.
well, Firefly, I think, had a similar storyline.
Yeah,
The small group of rebels against the bad guy government. And that's what this is, and which is that's what Star Wars is, and most of the sci-fi genre is the same thing. The only one different is Star Trek, which is the big guy government is the good guy
it's the good guy. Yeah.
most of the time.
Well, they and the element with Blake Seven is that that's always sort of it's the Federation isn't a monolithic evil. It has elements to it that's just like any other organization. That's some of the best episodes are ones about little um programs within the greater organization, and they're all sitting around doing the jobs. you know it they're just living that they don't have a specific evil intent. They're just doing their jobs. But it's it's a very intelligent commentary, and also the fact that Blake, who's the hero, it quite often comes off sounding like a maniac. And there is, in fact, a scene where he says, "I'm unfortunately I cannot think of the character's name. She was the maybe one of our listeners can prompt me. She was the alien who was telepathic. Um,
I haven't got to that part yet.
yeah. Well, this is toward the end of the second season, so,
Yeah, I
or
don't
second
think she's
season.
made an appearance yet. They haven't
No,
mentioned anybody that was telepathic yet.
No, she's not there yet. But there's a scene where Blake says, I have to do this. It's the only way I'll know that I was right. And everybody kind of turns around and says, that you were right? Is, is that what we're all battling for? So it, and also Avon, who sort of comes across in the beginning as being a very dark hero, is much more heroic than he seems to be. And in fact, saves Blake's life a couple of times. And it's a fascinating character. And he's my favorite character from the series.
Well, they killed off the one I liked. I liked the attorney that was trying to save Blake.
Yeah, I know.
They killed him off in the first episode.
I'll warn you, they do that a lot. They'll bring in characters but there will always be characters brought in that get eliminated, but the main cast lasts for at least a while. They don't last forever though, except for Avon, who's always there, and Bill.
Except for the pilot.
Oh yes, except for the pilot. But
I looked that up, and there is nobody. This is something unusual about the show. There is not one single actor that was in every episode.
Yeah. Well,
he was in the most.
Yeah. The voice of the
computer,
Orak, and Orak is another wonderful invention that I just love from the show. And the voice of the Liberator, Zen, Peter Tuddenham, I believe was his name. I think he's in all of them. He might be.
It doesn't mention him as being in all of them.
Well, he's not. His voice is in it. I don't.
No, he was listed in the cast.
Yeah.
So there's probably one or two episodes where they don't talk to the computer. So
yeah, it could be. Although they count Zen as one of the seven, so he's one of the Blake seven. So either that or Orak. There's a lot of discussion over whether it's Zen or Orak.
Now there seems to be some kind of conflict among fans as to whether write it as Blake's 7, the letters 7, or the number 7. Everybody seems to say it should be the number 7.
Yeah, well, that's what it was. I mean, but.
And there also seems to be a conflict as to whether to include the apostrophe on Blake's.
Oh, but no.
I would think there should be an apostrophe because it's referring to his
group
of people. Yeah. So.
Yep. And he's, it's a possessive form always. I mean, you may see it, as a typo without an apostrophe, but it's almost universally the case. I have to say that this show has some of the best fan fiction of any series out there. Mainly because it's an intelligent show. So my friend Ermentrude Postlethwaite Smythe, who knows what her real name is, is one of the preeminent writers in the fandom. And there's so many. I have so many friends who just kick ass when it comes to that.
And now, do you think it has something to do with the fiction coming out of England rather than coming out of the United States?
No, not at all, because some of the best writers are American. Um, although quite a few superb ones are in the UK. Um, it's just it's sort of a not a factor, the nations involved. But I have to not to be not to boast, but my novels are well thought of. So it's in general, although God knows I have my detractors, but so do we all. And there's so much, such great fan art. Also, it's just very inspirational, I guess. The the show itself.
Now, I have to say, we're earlier talking about the special effects. The
Yeah.
set behind me is actually pretty good is when in terms of science fiction in England. I
Yes.
mean, it's actually fairly well done. I like how it places the actors in a pyramid,
Exactly. It's a stage
and you can
versus
see all of them very well.
yeah.
It's
It
a good platform for them to act from.
well, if you'll notice anything permanent um, on the in the show is actually they invest in, but it's just the secondary sets and the episode based sets that look stupid.
Yeah, well, like I was talking about UFO and Space 1999,
Hmm.
those computers, they look less sophisticated than the computers from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea and Lost in Space.
Yeah.
And considering they're like 15 years newer, you would think they would be more sophisticated.
Yeah, you would think, but especially since we're talking about far in the future.
You know, they
But,
it just to talk about UFO one more time.
yeah,
They had the base on the moon where all of the interceptors were placed,
right.
and all of these soldiers are dressed in these baby blue uh, leotards with like children's football helmets.
Uh huh.
Who did that? No, isn't there a British uh, Michael Westmore or whoever does the costuming,
Yeah, I don't know. That's a
where
good.
they could have spent a little more money on that.
Yeah, yeah. It's let's see if we can ask AI who did makeup for British science fiction.
There was very little makeup on Blake Seven that I've seen so far.
Yeah, but the facial costuming you're talking about would be makeup.
Yeah. Do they ever run into aliens on Blake Seven?
Oh yeah.
They
Oh
do.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so far they haven't met any aliens, just humans.
Well, okay. The British makeup artist Pat McGrath is one of the most renowned makeup artists in the world. I don't think she'd want anyone to know that right now. We have no proof that Pat had anything to do with the series.
Well,
Um,
I don't really know them in terms of them being friends, but I am acquainted with Tom Savini and Michael
right,
Westmore.
right, yeah. Well,
And Westmore used to come to a lot of the conventions that I used to do, and so did Tom Savini. And I can thank Tom Savini, as I have mentioned to you guys before,
yeah,
for talking my daughter out of becoming a studio makeup artist.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Now she's
we lost somebody.
Yeah, we did. We're sorry. I guess the makeup wasn't interesting. But I have to say that they have one of the most interesting aliens ever in terms of visuals. They basically look like something that melted on the floor. And they're sort of standing there looking at it. And the somebody mentions, I believe, that it's dead. And Avon says, yeah, he would be difficult to like. But they do come up with interesting ways around the bad effects. So there's always another way around, and they will get there. I did want to mention also that we will be having a guest next week, um, Preston Dennett, who will be discussing his book, The 100 Schoolyard ET Encounters. And it's very interesting, especially if you've been following the stories out of Zaire and Wales about those UFO encounters with children. And so he'll be with us next week. Now back to like 7 and the scurrilous world of British SF from the 70s.
Well, I was impressed by the acting of the fellow who played the leader of the religious zealots.
Mm-hmm.
He,
Yep.
he was like a Shakespearean actor. He was very good.
Well, most of the actors are Shakespearean or have that in their background. Certainly, Darrow um, had that. He had classic training,
Now,
and
do we see Patrick Stewart during the run of Blake
no,
7? Nope.
nope. They couldn't afford Patrick
I
Stewart.
don't know. He was doing some off. He did Life Force. You ever see that movie?
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
The one with the alien sexy vampire girl.
yeah, yeah. There's quite a few. As I'm saying these things, I have to look up and see um, where Blake 7 was in terms of actors. I did a lot of research via my new AI bot, but it has limits. Let's see.
Now, did you hear what the government decided to name their AI defense computer that they built?
No, what?
Skynet.
Okay.
Have none of these people ever seen Terminator?
I guess not. And if they had,
I
you know,
mean, that was the name of the computer that killed everybody in Terminator.
yeah,
Was Skynet.
exactly. Is that like a foreboding? But
Tempting fate.
yeah. Wait, I was happy that the intelligence agencies named their um computer overmind Chloe. I thought that was cool. But no, um that just that's just stupid. I mean,
I think somebody thought it was funny because I mean, it's not just a coincidence. Somebody
no.
somebody had seen Terminators. Oh, it'd be funny as if we called it
Let's
Skynet.
call it Skynet. Well, that it aside from the fact it sounds like a 1960s hairspray, they all had names like that.
Yeah, Aquanet.
Yeah, exactly.
Our mother used to like Aquanet.
Aquanet. I know. There was actually an odd day about a year ago. I was sitting here and I could smell Aquanet. I'm sitting there wondering, is this a spiritual contact or something, and I figured out it was the um, mister we had with the what do you call it, the essential oils, and it just happened to smell like Aquanet.
It's funny if as you smell stuff like that, it'll bring things back to your memory.
Totally.
Like uh, my first girlfriend, Diana Hauser,
Yeah.
she used to wear white rain
Yeah.
or no, white shoulders,
Yeah. I knew it was.
and uh, whenever I smell that, it reminds me of her.
Yeah. Well, that's the way it is.
Well,
Memory
she's
and
gone, so it's possible she may be haunting me.
yeah, there you go. I don't think you want that though.
No,
Yeah.
don't want Diana Hauser to haunt me.
No. She was not the. But they IMDb has totally gone to the dogs.
Well, they want to charge you for everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's just insane. It. I mean, this is not stuff that. Let's see. Yeah, I'm not seeing any main big name um,
Actors.
actors.
No David Tennant or anything like that.
Nope,
Now
nope.
you would think David Tennant would have appeared on it.
You think? There's
You hear
Stephen
he's coming
Fry.
back. He's coming back to Doctor Who.
Yeah, I know.
They're
I
going
heard.
to do a special or something, but he's going to be on it.
Yeah, yeah. They've got is it Peter Byrne. There are a few British actors that are better known now, um, who ventured on out of the shadows on Blake Seven. But the I must say the first two seasons, series, pardon me, they're all called series, are my preferred ones. The last two I was not terribly fond of, but I watched them because it's like seven. And but a lot of people like the last two and don't like the first two. So
Well,
every
it's like Doctor Who. Very few people like the old black and white
oh yeah.
episodes of Doctor Who. Most people don't like watch. My favorite one is the one with Rose and the mannequins.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Rose. Now run for your life. That's my favorite Doctor Who line right there.
Yeah, the um oh, Terrence Plummer was also on. Yeah. See, there were a few. And we just lost Stephen Greif not long ago. He was the
The
oh,
comedian?
oh no, no.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
no.
There was an American comedian by the name of Stephen Wright.
No, that was Stephen Greif. Not Greif.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me.
It's my mumbling. It's not your fault. Um anyway, I'm trying to think of the name of his character. Uh hey friends, bail me out here. I remembered Servalon. Um,
We have a comment.
we do. Oh, Sheila Moore did the makeup. That's right. Thank you, Kim. That was it Gareth Thomas's wife or something? I feel she's somehow connected to the cast in another way. Maybe someone will remember the name of Greif's character. The character was played by two different actors. And the last one to play him, or the best one to play him, just passed recently. So, but it's this series was shot in the 70s and early 80s. So it everybody on the show is in our age brackets.
Growing up, I was very fond of a lot of British shows. I
Yep.
used to watch The Saint,
Yep. Yep.
uh, The Avengers.
Yep. The
Now,
prisoner.
I'm not talking about these superheroes in tights. I'm talking about
Hey, I'm a Marvel kid.
I'm talking about Steed and
Yeah.
I can't think of
Mrs. Peel.
yeah,
Mrs.
Mrs.
Peel.
Peel. I don't like the what was her name, King.
Oh yeah.
I
Uh,
I didn't care for her. I
yeah.
think Mrs. Peel was in the first 2 or 3
She,
seasons
she
series.
was the show. Yeah.
Yeah, I like them much better.
Yeah. And the prisoner was another one.
Yeah, I like the Prisoner, the Secret Agent Man.
Yep.
Now,
There were lots of just great British series from those years. There was one with Anthony. No, what's his name? Not Anthony. Last name was Quayle. Um, that I liked a lot. Um, Mainly mysteries and things like that.
you ever
Uh,
see Tripods?
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that was another British sci-fi
Yep.
show.
There's a lot of it that was very good, and
They did a War of the Worlds series,
hmm
also BBC.
yeah, I have to admit that I actually prefer Blake Seven to most of the earlier American science fiction shows, mainly because they were hobbled by the front office, and they couldn't deal with the same adult issues that the British shows could. Um, but that said, nowadays we've caught up. And, um, I'm happy to say that Seth MacFarlane sent out a tweet saying that he's awaiting news on the fourth season of the Orville. So that will be cool if that happens.
I've
And
had a really hard time getting into anything past season 1 of the Orville.
yeah,
I
well,
tried watching it, it just doesn't grow on me.
it may not be your cup of tea. I mean, it's like there's stuff that you like. I don't like the stuff
Oh
I
yeah,
you don't like.
I,
You know,
a lot of the offbeat stuff I find interesting. Like one of the movies I like, you may not have even seen it. A Boy and His Dog
oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
with the guy off of Miami Vice, Don,
Don, yeah,
that guy.
that guy, the 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 white guy.
Yeah. That's one of the best twists. I'm not going to tell you what the twist is.
Yeah,
It's one of the best twists at the end of a movie.
it's a hell of a lot better than the Sixth Sense twist, which was appallingly obvious. But
Well, yeah, although that M. Night Shyamalan one where they're, uh, it looks like they're back in the 1700s,
oh yeah,
and then
the village.
it turns out they're not.
Yeah,
That was a pretty good twist. I didn't see that coming.
yeah. There are, he has certainly improved his game since the Sixth Sense. But I must say that there aren't any twists in it. But I found Megan quite interesting, and it held my interest and um, was consistent and had a good plot line, and the overall narrative was good.
I didn't care for Nope. What'd you think of Nope?
I love Nope. I
Uh,
think Nope is a work of genius. But I think it's just what we like about science fiction in
it
different ways.
reminded me of Encounter at Farpoint.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that comparison. I've heard it before, but I think there were elements in Nope that just have have been few and far between in the rest of sci-fi, and it there also there's so many layers to it that there's going to be a sequel, and so they will continue to uncover them.
Now,
One of my favorite scenes is where the fellow, he's such a great actor, who plays the brother, um, the sane one, and he's sitting there in his barn working on something, and up next to him comes his father, who's dead, and he talks to him just like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. You're sitting there going, wait a minute, and they never even refer to it. So it shows you that the timeline is even distorted. But
did you ever watch 1899?
no, I never did. I heard it was good though.
Yeah, they canceled it after one
Oh,
season.
yeah, they did that to Forever for me. That it was a wonderful series that I just loved, and they
Well, they
can't.
just canceled The Expanse too.
Yeah, I heard.
They're really can't.
And
Netflix is, yeah, it can't.
Westworld.
HBO and Netflix are canceling all their sci-fi.
It looked like it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's sad.
Now
There's over.
I've heard that Amazon Prime is considering picking up some of it. So
They have said they're going to. So who knows which ones, but they have green lighted an exploratory thing to look into.
well, I'll tell you something I have been doing for the last probably 10 years is I got burned watching Stargate Universe. I got
Yeah,
into it, and then like the middle of the third season, they cut it off. No end of the story, nothing. Just boom, gone. Now they had never done that with the Stargate series.
yeah,
It was like Enterprise with Star Trek. That although the original Star Trek got canceled, but all
yeah.
these subsequent shows had all run 7 seasons.
Right.
But they killed Enterprise in the fourth season, and they
Yeah.
didn't even give them their final episode. They made their final episode an episode of Next Generation, which pissed everybody off.
Oh yeah. Well, it's
And
fraud.
so what I started doing is I started waiting until, since all the shows are streamed now, I wait until the show completes before I
Yeah,
start watching it.
it's a good idea.
I did that with The Sopranos.
Yeah.
I just don't read anything about the shows, so I don't get
Spoiled.
information I
Yeah.
don't want. And so I've watched a number of shows. Right now, I'm watching Falling Skies because I heard that they ended it pretty good, even though it didn't have its full run of 5 years. Some of the shows get really screwed up during the run because the people making the show aren't sure they're going to get a full run.
Yeah.
So they'll do an episode to wrap up the show, but then they get the next season.
Yeah.
So,
And then what are you gonna do? Of
well,
course, Blake Seven was actually made famous by the fact that they got canceled when they wrote the ending um, as a what do you call it? You know, a um, God, I hate getting old. As, as a cliffhanger. Thank you. The They wrote it as a cliffhanger. I won't tell you what happens. You'll have to see it, but it it was made famous by that fact. And
now I have had an idea for a podcast.
Okay.
And I'll put this out here so our limited fan base
Yeah. Down to one now.
can have an idea about this. But I thought you could do a pretty good podcast if you could get a group of 6 or 8 actors together and write wrap up episodes for all of these television shows that never got to wrap themselves up.
They're doing that. As far as Dark Shadows,
Yeah, but
there's
I mean, all the shows.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you go to Stargate Universe that never got wrapped up. The people never made it home, you know.
yeah, yeah. They
But,
did it also with Blake Seven. They have done.
well, there's probably a lot of fan stuff, but a lot of those shows don't really have a fan base. Like, even now, Blake Seven's got a pretty good fan base.
Oh yeah,
But some of the, like Stargate Universe, you know, it doesn't have that much of a fan base. But there's a show I liked to go into a different series. One that I liked, it only ran 3 years, had 66 episodes. It was called 7 Days.
mm-hmm.
Do you remember it?
No, not at all.
The government had built this time machine, and the time machine could go back 7 days. So if something occurred and the person could get into the time machine and go back in time, they could perhaps correct
Yeah,
whatever it was that had occurred. And there was one episode where there was a meteor, I think, coming, and so he went back 7 days, and they had a thing set up to where he had a way of letting the government know that he was not some crackpot.
right.
You know, because otherwise that's what they would automatically think, is that he was
Well,
some kind
yeah,
of nut. But but I can't find it streaming anywhere.
yeah. But there are some series you just cannot find. I've been trying to find Dave's World, which was a comedy series that I liked, and I can't find it. It's hard to find the last two seasons, and I want no jokes about this, of The Flying Nun. There are all kinds of series that are just not available. Uh,
Another show that Pamela Ferdin was on.
yeah, yeah, she was. She had her own little flying nun outfit.
I know. I looked for what was it? Maya.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Maya?
Yeah, Jay North and Sajid Khan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, Sajid Khan was a big teen idol at
Oh
the
yes,
time.
he was a big star.
Melody,
Yes.
I can't believe something.
What?
Tiger Beat magazine is still publishing.
Oh yeah.
With all the, no offense, Tiger Beat, but with all the really good magazines that have gone away, like Mad and, you know, a lot of those, Tiger Beat? Really?
Well, at least it's not Flip. Flip was the cheap teen magazine that.
Oh, there were billions of those.
Oh yeah, 16. Oh, tons of them.
Well, 16 was
Tiger
the
Beat.
biggest one at the
Yeah,
time,
yeah. Well,
and it's gone.
the lady who was the publisher, Gloria Stavers, passed away a few years ago. So I believe that was the end of the magazine then, if not before.
Well, I
So
think it was owned by Peterson Publishing, which is they
yeah,
own Hot Rod, and,
they own everything.
yeah, a lot of the magazines. I wish Disney, instead of shutting down Mad, and the Mad that's publishing now is a piece of crap. I'm sorry. Uh, Somebody bought me the Mad Stocking Stuffer, and it's nothing but woke crap. And there ain't no way William Gaines would have ever published any of that stuff in there.
Well,
Because,
it's sort of what Mad was the anti-woke.
well, yeah, I mean, they went after everybody,
Everybody. Yeah.
everybody equally. They went after them, and it was really good. But
Yeah.
it's not really good anymore. So if you like Mad Magazine, go find some issues. I've got a set of DVDs of all the old episodes of Mad back to number 1 up through the mid 80s. And that's what you want to get because that's
Yeah.
got all the Mort Drucker. And the only artist that I know that's still drawing for Mad is Sergio Aragones.
Yeah.
He's the one that does those little cartoons around the edge of the page.
Yeah. The spy versus spy type stuff.
Yeah, well, on the edge of the page, there's these tiny little cartoons
Oh
on
yeah.
some of the
Oh, okay.
pages. And I met him and Matt Groening. They were sitting side by side signing autographs at Comic Con down in San Diego about, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago.
Cool.
And Sergio's got the biggest handlebar mustache you ever saw. And he was a character. He signed some stuff for me, and that was back when they didn't charge you $75 for an autograph.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
Did you see what William Shatner was charging?
$100. Yeah.
$750.
For a signature?
You got like 15 minutes with him to talk about whatever you wanted. And he would sign 3 items, but it had to be 3 items you bought from them. You couldn't bring your own stuff. And it was $750.
You know what I would do? I'd look him in the face and go, "Why are you such a butt crack?"
Yeah,
That was $700.
they did it on the set of Star Trek New World.
Uh-huh.
I forget the guy's name that built the set and
Oh yeah.
everything. He had a convention there, and
I don't know.
people got tours of the set. See,
Yeah, you know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
that's something that a lot of these people that own the rights to these old shows should promote is have fans do episodes of the show. I'm sure there's somebody that loves Blake Seven that's got the money that would fund fan produced shows of that.
Yeah.
I'll mention now before we go off. I want to ask you a question.
What's that?
I've noticed a lot of the British stuff is not on BBC.
Yeah, that's true.
It's ITC.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
not real. I know most of the Jerry Anderson stuff was not on BBC.
Right. If there was a tendency to go with Thames was another one. Those were sort of the outlanders, the Auslanders, if you will. Um, the companies that would take unusual topics and things. Um, the BBC looked at science fiction as children's material. They thought, that Doctor Who was a kids show, and they didn't understand the intellectual element of science fiction. So because of that, a lot of the early progenitors of British sci-fi went to ITC and related production entities. So
Yeah,
although it's all BBC, but it's not BBC.
because in order to watch the episodes of Blake 7, I bought a subscription to BritBox on
Ah,
Amazon Prime. It's $7.99 a month.
yeah,
And the problem was I tried watching the episodes on YouTube,
yeah.
and for some reason at the last like 7 minutes of the episode, the first episode, it goes back to the beginning of the show, and you never get the ending.
Yeah.
So like, what the hell happened? Yeah.
Well, it's better than. Do you know that for the first probably 5 years of the fandom, the only episodes American viewers had were camera copies, and people they would hear Aurak and hear Aurak referred to, but they weren't really sure if Aurak was a computer or an animal, or because the distortion was so bad that you couldn't really tell what it was. And so, there's a long tradition in the fandom of putting up with crappy episodes in
now,
order just to see them.
now that would be something somebody might think of doing in the BBC is take some of these old episodes that were just shit because of the awful special effects and spend a little CGI money on them.
You'd think, but
you
you know,
they did that with Star Trek. You watch the old episodes of Star Trek and
oh
uh,
yeah,
like the Doomsday Machine and a lot of the ships. They've blended it together into the episode, and it plays just like it's was there all the time.
they even monitor the or moderate the color in the scene and make it the shadows fit. I know. I was watching the episode with the big rock thing, the one where um
The Horda,
oh, what's that?
the Horda.
Yes, the Horta. And I was noticing that they had augmented the episode and done it in a convincing way. So
Yeah, it
it
didn't look ridiculous,
no, and you would expect for it to, but
Well, another show that I'm not sure who paid for it, but they remastered Babylon 5.
yeah,
And they really did a good job on Babylon 5. You have to remember the first episode of Babylon 5 was done on Amiga computers.
yeah, yeah.
And
That tells you something.
well, the Amiga computer was unusual at the time because it had the ability to edit one pixel at a time, which no other computer had the ability to do. So
Yeah,
a lot of these effects places were using these computers to do stuff you couldn't do any other way.
right.
But while the effects looked okay on an analog television screen of 25 inches, if you take that, make that 4K and blow it up to 65 inches, it really doesn't go over very well.
Yeah,
And like for a long time, I watched Babylon 5 on my iPad
yeah,
because it looked good on my iPad. But if I put it on my 65-inch TV,
it
it
was terrible.
really didn't look good. But now it looks fine.
Yeah,
You can blow it up to your 65-inch 4K TV and it looks great.
yeah. They did the same thing I noticed with the later version of Battlestar Galactica. They went in and remastered some of the early stuff. And I have to say that probably the biggest fan of Blake Seven in the world is J. Michael Straczynski. He, in fact, a lot of people think that Blake Seven, um, in some ways, inspired Babylon Five. The He certainly has been very vocal about his support of the series. So um, Maybe he'd be a good one to go in and remaster it.
He's too busy messing with Babylon 5. I don't know
Yeah.
if you've seen that. They're talking about remaking Babylon 5.
Why?
First of all, you can't bring in the old cast back because
It's dead, aren't
75% of them are dead.
they? Yeah.
I mean, that show had like a curse on it.
It's same thing with Glee, you know. I mean,
You know, Richard Biggs is dead.
yep.
Uh, Andreas Katsoulis is dead.
Yep.
No, you know, I have a little funny story about that. Went to a Babylon 5 convention in Burbank
Yep.
back just after the show went off. And the only one that wasn't there was Peter Jurassic. He had a heart attack and he wasn't there. And well, he's still alive though.
Yep.
And uh, Andreas refused to be there unless he could smoke. So his table was outside. So you had to go outside. And I don't know if you ever seen the picture I posted of me standing next to Andreas.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I got my picture taken with him I had his Jakar action figure. He autographed it for me. Oh. And I also got bunch of the people that aren't here anymore. Stephen Burr.
Yeah.
Or Stephen First.
Yeah.
Played Veer.
I know that.
And who was the one that played the security officer that was in Greece?
I was just trying to remember his name. And then there was the lady that passed.
He played Kawicki in Greece.
Yeah. Jeff Conway.
Yeah, Conway. Yeah. And one that really saddened me was Tim Choate.
Yeah.
He played Zathras. He was killed in a car accident. He was way too young. Not long after that convention, he was killed in a car accident. So,
it's just so sad. But
they had the guy there that played the psychic's boyfriend, Lita Alexander's boyfriend, the real handsome guy with the long hair. He was there. And the one that was in love with Ivanova and he gave his life for her, that guy was there. So they had almost everybody. Billy Mooney was there, Boxleitner, Mira Furlan, you know, the whole cast pretty much, except for Peter Jurassic. So it was a good convention.
Yeah, it sounds like a definite one. I don't think maybe some of the British conventions, they may have had the whole Blake 7 cast, but none of the American ones. We just had one or two and we were happy.
Well, StarCon used to do, that wasn't StarCon, but StarCon used to do a lot of these offbeat things because it was easy to gather these actors because a lot of them hadn't done anything for a while.
Yeah, it's sort of like,
like they had This Island Earth.
Yeah.
And one of the cast members of that was Russell Johnson.
Right.
Who played the professor on Gilligan's Island.
Gilligan's Island, yeah.
So he was there, and there were a couple other people, and they had the cast of Time Tunnel.
Oh yeah.
They had Lee Merriweather, Robert,
James Darren,
and Robert. I can't think of his name, but they had scheduled Richard Basehart was supposed to be there because I guess he had done like the first episode, the pilot or something. Yeah. But he died right before the convention, so they didn't have him.
That's very sad.
Lee Merriweather was very nice. I saw her at several of the conventions, and she was always very nice.
Yeah, but most of the actors are. It's that's something I can say about Blake 7 is that None of the actors were standoffish or rude or anything. They were all very friendly, and I mean, Avon came over when I was sitting waiting for him and someone else to come back to the table. He walked around and said, well, okay, well, here's what they got for breakfast. So I got to order my breakfast from Avon.
Well, the two people that I always list as the people I didn't think were very nice have both passed on, so I'm not going to say anything bad about them. But
Well, that's nice.
there were
But
two people that weren't very nice at those. There was one, I don't know her name. Her claim to fame was she was on the cover of Playboy, and she had hair all the way down to her knees. And on the cover of Playboy, they covered up her
self.
sensitive parts with hair. Well, she was there. Why she was at this convention, I don't know. But she was there, and these two uh, mentally handicapped people were going from table to table getting autographs. Well, they didn't understand that you had to pay. So the actors were all really being nice and were just giving them pictures and signing for free.
Right.
Then it and when she saw them coming towards her table, she left and she told her guy to get rid of
Uh,
them. Now,
well,
this here, let me tell you another, just real quick. Erin Gray. I don't know if you're familiar with her.
yeah, she was on Buck
Buck
uh,
Rogers. And
Rogers.
she read for the role of Captain Janeway on
Yeah,
Voyager.
yeah.
Well, it just so happens that her family were nudists.
Oh, yeah, you've told me that story. Yeah.
And when she was young, I guess somebody took some pictures of her, and somehow these pictures got out there, and some of these perverts had, and somebody actually asked her to sign one. Now, I have to say, she quietly went to the promoter and had this guy kicked out on his ass, which I'm glad to see. But just the audacity of somebody to do something like that. I
Yeah.
hope they arrested the son of a bitch because
That's why you always have to hear the other side of rude celebrity stories. Except if you're hearing one from someone who has met them a number of times. Anyway, we are at the top of the hour.
yeah,
In fact, we're over.
we're
Um,
2.5 minutes over.
but we were late. So anyway, next week we'll be having Preston Dennett here to regale us about stories of the UAP, the other presence
If
on
you want to
the.
see more about him, look at last week's episode. I played a little interview clip.
Yes, and there are some on YouTube also. He has his own channel over there. So, or here, as the case may be. Anyway, thank you for joining us. We're always happy to see you, and we hope you have a great week. Bye.
Bye.